okay?
Still in one piece.
Maniac's gonna ram us! Run! Claire!
Leon!
I'm okay. Head to the station. I'll meet you there.
Okay.
Resident Evil 2 is a role model when it comes to sequels. It's one of the few follow-ups in the video game industry to surpass its prequel in almost every possible area. And that's not to be taken lightly. The original Resident Evil on PlayStation is considered by many as one of the best titles of its era and is also largely responsible for the birth and popularity of the survival horror genre. I always was curious to know what the deal was with the Nintendo 64 version. Why was it that out of all three 32-bit Resident Evil games, only one ever made it out on the 64?
What are you doing?
I assumed it had something to do with the cartridge limitation of the system. I recently found a copy for a decent price and couldn't resist buying it. For some reason, I was expecting a mediocre port. Turns out, this is the best possible version of Resident Evil 2. Visually, Resident Evil 2 is one of the most impressive, if not the best looking N64 game out there. It's the only title in the entire 64 library to include full motion video cutscenes. Every single FMV from the original release are included here. Do they look as good as they did on the PlayStation? No, sadly they do not. But the fact that you're not missing out on any story or visual element is a good start. Pretty much the only downside to these FMVs is that they look a bit more blurry and the sound effects and the voices have a lot more echo. Besides that, everything else is golden. The game looks better on the Nintendo 64. The characters are more detailed, the zombies look more threatening. Most important of all, the game plays faster. Less loading times and more action. I completed the game in 2 sittings because I just couldn't stop playing. It just feels a whole lot smoother now than I remembered. This automatically makes a classic game even better. That's not all the technical prowess that's featured in the Nintendo 64 version. If you have the expansion pack, you'll get what was considered high resolution back in the day. It's also the first version to incorporate surround sound. Finally, there's no need for a memory card as everything is saved on the cartridge. All this tech talk can be boring after a while and frankly, debatable depending on who you talk to. The point is, Nintendo 64 owners shouldn't shy away from playing Resident Evil 2. The game is simply one of the best survival horror games you'll ever play. The reason is that it perfectly balances the survival aspect with the action and horror elements. The game starts you up right in Raccoon City and you'll be continuously escaping zombies and running to a new location hoping for the best. You'll then enter a police station which brings back the Metroid feel of the original where you need to explore the mansion, solve puzzles, backtrack here and there when you can open new areas. However, the backtracking is kept to a minimum in here and it's more about exploring and finding new information. I really like how you often need to think whether you should bring an extra green herb with you or instead devote that space to a spare weapon, just in case. Nobody will have the same experience. What adds icing on the cake is that once you've beaten the game, it's really only the beginning. Both Claire and Leon offer a different campaign, and both also have a B scenario which introduces a scary enemy who may or may not appear at random to say hello. When you couple in the 4 different scenarios and 2 difficulty levels, there's a lot of replayability with Resident Evil 2. I absolutely love the Resident Evil franchise. However, it's not a secret that I'm not the bravest cat when it comes to those games. I usually have to follow a guide or play with a friend so I don't get scared. I realize that getting scared is part of the experience, but it's just something that I typically can't seem to enjoy. The fact I couldn't stop playing until the credits rolls should be reason enough to justify the greatness of Resident Evil 2. Thanks for viewing, I hope you're enjoying this Halloween special. Please let me know in the comment section below what your personal thoughts on Resident Evil 2 is and how high it ranks with the rest of the series. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for yet another spooky video.